Welcome to another edition of the RikiLeaks Roundtable, and I am joined today by a huge panel of my friends. Starting at the top left, we have Jake Patriot Shepherd. I've got my friend Cormac Hamilton as well. I have Jeff Memoria, and I have Johnny Kill as well joining me. And we have a big roundtable here.
Thanks.
Cormac.
Hello, blessings. Thank you for having us here.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
Thank you guys so much.
Happy to be here, man. Appreciate the invite.
So we go back and forth with this topic, guys. I know everybody here on this table at one point or another has experienced shadow work, right? What do we call shadow work? It's doing kind of the heavy lifting of making sure that we all have in our own minds the ability to react to situations appropriately that may cause us stress. We can all probably pick examples left and right these days, going as far as the jab, the vaccine, and everything from losing our jobs, which is something that I was involved in. And I think that goes for a lot of people out there. And I would be really, if I didn't have the experiences that I had that I didn't get to choose now, I would be not in a good place. I wouldn't be here on the computer. I'll tell you that. I don't think so. I'd be somewhere off losing my mind, because this is tough. What we're going through right now, no one has a playbook for this. No one has a playbook. And I think a lot of us try and act and feel like we've been through this before so we can hold up an appearance. And we maybe think that that's an illusion of resiliency, having strength by faking it, fake it till you make it. We all know that. But sometimes that just doesn't really cut it. And we have to do work. We have to look back and expose ourselves to things that really traumatized us. And we have to make that right. We've got to make that corrected, because otherwise there's going to be something that comes down the line in our lives that presents a challenge, and how we react to that. We may put ourselves in a situation that might make it worse, where we had the opportunity to make it better if we had just done some work and just going back and looking into our lives. And I think everyone here on this panel can agree with that. I kind of do want to put you on a spotlight, Mr. Master Jeff, because you've introduced me to the side of healing that really works. I wouldn't say it's a one size fits all, but your method of helping people kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, awaken to their own pain, their own trauma, and help them see it. Because you go through people who are maybe in denial about what they're experiencing and what kind of pain that they feel.
Yes, that's why in all what I work, even though I'm a spiritual healer, master, whatever, teacher, people give me this, words as so they could relate, coach, what have you. My approach, and because I deal with some pretty heavy cases or crisis, due to my background of, working with insane criminals about 20 years, the main thing that are lacking in our movement is true knowledge and experience. And I'm just being transparent.
Yeah.
A lot of folks out there just regurgitate information instead of actual having experience of healing and sitting in their own stuff. My energy signature and my whatever, because I'm a light cultivator, I transmit stuff. I transmit light. It is not just by sitting in meditation. It is transmuted pain, transmuted darkness. It's like the antidote for poison. You turn poison into medicine. In spirituality, in my teaching, we call that transmutation. But going back to the typical of responses of people is too generic in terms of healing. Everything's too generic. There are generic approach. At the same time, when it comes to severe and heavy cases, it takes some custom protocols. Hence that 20 years of dealing with criminally insane, you have to do some kind of assessment. And that's what most in life is basically, that's what I give credit to. So you assess. I mean, you assess within yourself, right?
Right.
You assess what is really going on, because let's say I work from vaccine injured children, adults, dying babies, to pro MMA, pro athletes, right? The situation is one to another very different. Even let's say one brittle diabetics to another diabetic neuropathy. You're thinking, well, generally speaking, there are some protocol that will help the regeneration of, the pancreas, or we could somewhat control the blood sugar, but one to another is very different. And then we're talking about mental resiliency.
Yes.
Mental and emotional, how it's so directly connected. I have very simple spiritual cleansing, ground and alignment technique that if you actually do it close to 50%, you will reduce pain, stress, emotional pain instantly. It took me decades to have this technique, but it requires me or whoever that's doing this technique to hold the attunement, to hold that master tuning. So it's like, imagine you're the master tuning fork. So you just align someone with my technique. And this is my passion. I teach all my findings and my techniques that I developed through helping thousands of people. Before my awakening, thousands of people, and thousands after my spiritual awakening, is to teach fundamentals. Now, going back to denial, what you were asking, sorry, this is a little bit long answer.
Oh, it's perfect. That's exactly it. That's where people are getting, where do people get started with that type
It's
of
basically
that type
just
of
that.
method?
It's actually started with very simple stuff. If people are on denial, you're on the other hand, let's say you're trying to help a family member that's on denial. The first thing that actually I would suggest is just hold your own alignment and gratitude. Okay. And kind of like holding a mirror. Because if you kind of tell them like, hey, this is not what you think it is, they're already on denial. There's no changing that concept unless they actually feel something. So in my ability, in my teaching, I'm able to let people experience what I'm saying.
So that they're not able to deny it outright.
They're not
by their
able
own
to deny it.
They're not able to
they're
put
not
out.
able to deny it. So I will make people weak. I will make people strong. Okay, so I would actually get across of how much truth actually means. So it goes back to truth, and I would actually explain to them. And you could actually measure this by your strength, because we're dealing, let's say, with men that's on denial. It doesn't matter how big they are. When they lie, they are weak. When they're in denial, they are weak. I would push around guys that 100 pounds more muscle than me. It doesn't matter, because their chi flow is going to be reversed. So first, I will actually establish authority of truth. How the spirit dictate the energy, how the energy dictate the body. So even then, it's up to them to accept.
Yeah, they have to be ready to that's exactly it. Are people
But there
ready?
are people that's on denial, but they just need a little bit,
Yeah.
Oh, I need proof. I need
They're a hair at a square with what they're willing to allow themselves to accept. Does that make sense?
That's basically, we're talking about ego. In my experience, you need ego on certain moments and certain time. It's better, or it is much more conducive if you're not operating on ego all the time. Now, when we think that we need proof just for us to feel better, that's ego.
Yes.
When I need this so I could feel this. You don't dictate universe. You don't dictate experience. It just is. So the most shift and healing that I've transpired for thousands of others, including myself, all my teaching I applied to myself. I created my teaching from me first, because I came from the dark side. I was really dark. I was suicidal and depressed most of my life, walking around with violent thoughts all the time.
I really resonate with that. I want to, if you don't mind me getting in here real quick,
Please,
just,
please, please, please.
yeah, I love everything you're saying, man. This is great because I get so fed up when people have to base how they feel on some outside stimulant.
Yeah.
And like, it's just completely unnecessary. Literally how you feel is what you decide to feel.
Mhm.
And I look at it as emotional intelligence. So if you get in a car wreck, you have your child in the back seat, you impact, you're knocked out for a second, you wake up, you look in the back seat and your child isn't breathing. You can either decide to act hysterically and freak out and scream and whine and cry and weep, or you can take those precious moments to unbuckle, move back there, assess the
Yes.
airway, breathing, circulation, and then you can reestablish their circulation in their body. And in the meantime, some bystander that is going to stop, there's going to be somebody that stops. They run up, they communicate, hey, are you okay? Please call 911. You relay to them while you're assessing your child. And that's just a difference in decision that you made. And we can train ourselves to make those decisions in those times where we're vulnerable, or in those times that are a lot, our stress level is a lot higher than what it is on just a everyday basis. And what you're saying is literally that. I've never spoken about it in the same way that you have, but that's literally how I
It's
have
the same.
developed and healed myself. I literally have healed myself from so many traumas and just horrible things that I've experienced by realizing that I can make the decision about how I feel in
Yeah.
that moment. I am, no one else. The world isn't happening to me.
Yeah.
The world is happening around me, and it's up to me to decide how I feel about it. And that doesn't mean I have to like it. It doesn't mean I have to accept the negative out there and just go along with it and comply. I don't have to do that. But what I'm saying is that you, in that moment, you decide where your happiness is, how you want to feel about it. And that can literally transform every aspect of your entire life.
I call it accept truth as is.
Yeah.
So the more we accept even the things that we don't like, we accept it as it is. That's the most shift. It's not to suppress our own feelings,
Correct.
but
Yeah.
know what to feed. We are what we feed at all times. What part of us processing this experience? We have different parts of us. We have the inner child. We all still have a lot of work to do. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Doesn't matter how many miracles I've done. It doesn't matter. We're here to evolve or repeat. But then we always have that choice. I've been tested quite a bit in the past few weeks where the old self is knocking. The old self's knocking. Want to resort to violence, want to resort to this. You feel it. But then I learned a new level of using all this part of you. It is like a different ammunition. It is a refinement of your old rage. It's a refinement of your old anger. So that's what transmutation is. When you feel raw stuff, and then you process with the new self, the new transformed self. You don't process as the old self. And that's how I transform addicts in one session, because I teach this simple alignment. What part of me processing this?
Dude, this is so fantastic. And I don't mean this in a comical way. I have been craving this communication, this conversation with someone in the world. And I haven't had it with anyone. I have been craving this. I'm sorry to sound
No, that's no
theatrical.
sorry. This is
I
what
am
this is
so
for.
ecstatic that,
Awesome.
dude, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is exactly
all
the
of us
truth.
is amazing, because this is what the Roundtable is for. And I realize the more I transform myself, I carry this wisdom. This wisdom, it is transmuted pain. What the perception was pain was, it's not pain anymore. It's becoming perceived pain and suffering. It's all become blessings because I have this, and this wisdom is not here. This wisdom is energetic. And I teach people to actually expand that. It is a consciousness energy field, because you transmuted your shit to become gold. That's what alchemist is. You transmuted your old shit to become gold that you could give out to people. That's what blessings are.
Jeff, you're my spirit animal, brother.
equivalent exchange. You put good in, get good out. We all know that one.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I mean, that's so as far as denial, go back. Let me just recap so people could follow the train of thought. When you're trying to help people with on denial, number one, hold truth. Some people shift on its own. Number two, if they're open, it depends how comfortable the relationship. I could teach you guys how to do simple muscle testing, kinesiology. When they lie, when they're in denial, they are weak. It doesn't matter. We could argue about, let's say, I'm going to tell you this is a piece of rod of steel. So you hold the intention and we do muscle tests, you will become weak. But when we say this is a pen, you conduct more of the light. So you conduct more neurotransmitter and neuro drive to the muscle. Then you become stronger.
So
That's
this is,
why.
sorry, you go ahead. I was trying to ask a question.
So this is basically a very simple technique. Well, I could actually explain to people, if they lie about who they are, even a fraction of a truth, they are physically weaker. Because we as a being, it doesn't matter. Religion does not matter. Actually, spirituality. Truth is the catalyst of everything in terms of positive and growth and miracles. You have to have truth. Acceptance of truth that we actually say. So when you're dealing with denial, there's no healing. When you're dealing with victimhood, there's no healing because victimhood is a lie. They're all lies. There's nothing truth about it. So after this simple explanation and demonstration of how truth makes you weak or makes you strong, or which one is it? So once you prove it, let's say, hey, truth is actually make you strong, but which truth? So once they accept their truth was wrong and the actual truth as is better, then they shift. Then you could actually crack a whole new world open. Then they will continue transforming. It's as simple as that, the simple tweak in their way of processing information and life, the way you process your experience, the way you process your emotions and thoughts. Your mind is not always your friend. Your emotion is not always true. It's not always true because your emotion could be reacting on your old unhealed part of you.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And that our emotions, if we aren't secure, then those emotions, they really can be literally used against us. Would you agree?
Yes. And then it's okay to be honest. I told before I get in a physical altercation in the past, it's just because I did not explain myself. And I would actually give a person a warning, in my old self, we were going to get in a physical altercation. But in this moment, I chose not to because I am more important than feeding my old ego, smashing your face to the wall. My evolution in spirituality is more important. Sometimes we need to say it out loud. And I say it even to people that didn't get it, but I needed to say it out loud. So I actually get it more in my own ego mind.
Self-practice.
It's discipline. Self-discipline is self-love.
And it should always be going. Self-love should be occurring. I would say it's nonstop, and you don't have to give it 100% throttle self-love all the time, every day. But you need to wake up with it inside of your head saying, well, how can I help myself today? This is a good example. And I'm glad we went into this because these are things that people can have routines that maybe it's not serving their best interests. Here's a good example for my military listeners out there. How many of you guys on a training weekend or during a training exercise, upon waking up at 5 a.m, of course, we would reach for an energy drink, right? Or caffeine. And you would do that for probably a week. Now, is that really starting off the best way for us? Even if we're training to be in a combat situation, are we going to have a monster that we can just grab and being dependent on having a bunch of caffeine and stimulants to do our jobs? No, we need to have that baseline from ourselves. Wake up, stretch, think about what we're doing. Go check on your people. If you're a leader, go be productive. Don't just seek to get a shortcut. That's the biggest thing. Don't take shortcuts. And we can't take shortcuts with this type of healing, guys. I think we all understand that now.
And then we should take this talk, and then we built upon the next one. Now you brought a very good point, energy, right? I have very specific, simple method in my basic fundamental teaching: water, salt, gratitude. If you do my simple technique of breath work with minerals, with water, with gratitude, you will make light, you will make energy.
And this type of thing that goes for really any. Is there any trauma that you would say we couldn't heal from people? Anyone on here? I mean, we all can get through it, is what my point is. No matter, I think, where we come from.
I would agree. Definitely. 100%.
You just have to believe you can.
Me
I feel
too.
like
Yeah.
that's what it is you have to believe it. I mean, I think it takes a while. You know, I haven't practiced this with very many people, and I have had conversations with other people trying to get them to understand my thought process
Yeah.
on self-healing, but not in any way the same capacity of Jeff or Cormac or anything like that. But you know, I was talking to a guy earlier this week. I just started working with a personal trainer. There's a whole backstory.
Right.
Long story short, I started with a personal trainer, and young kid, and 23 years old, big strong guy, always in the gym, working hard, disciplined in a lot of ways, but emotionally, he's had a lot of struggles, and I don't know okay, I'm gonna say I get told to talk to people about things all the time. I don't. It's a spiritual thing, in my opinion, and the words don't come from me. I don't feel like they come from me. Maybe they come from me. They're coming through me, or whatever. It sounds crazy. I know a lot of people are like, "Well, what are you talking
Not
about?"
crazy. You're not crazy,
Crazy.
sir. That's a
Okay,
higher
thank you.
aspect of you.
Thank
And
you.
I got to
Thank you.
just throw in there as well and be rude for interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
Please never compare your story to somebody else's because of mine and Jeff's being, I don't know, brutal, or somebody else's being brutal. Your story is individual. Your life story, your mission, your soul mission is different. You got to go through whatever you got to go through. Do not compare yourself to the other person. That's what's really causing so much division around us. So
Okay.
here we are. We're very blessed as brothers to come here today and be together and share as a unit, you know?
Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
thank you. I just got to throw that in there.
Thank you, sir. All right. So talking to this young guy, and the words just start coming out of my mouth, and I'm talking about, you know, if there was one thing that I could tell my younger self, because I see this guy, a lot of similarities in my past. You know, he's kind of confiding in me. Um, and I said, if there was one thing that I could tell my younger self, someone like you in your situation, the most important thing that I could think of telling them is learn to control your emotions. And instead of making reactions to your stimulants in your world around you, make deliberate responses, because that's going to essentially change the way that you perceive the world, and you are going to make better decisions because of it. And he was like, dude, that is exactly what I needed to hear. And you know, he goes into a story of, you know, the day before he about got into an altercation, and I said, man, just just try this. You know, you've seen that old show Anger Management, and it's pretty satire and so on. And the guy takes a deep breath and says "Gushraba" or whatever he says and stuff like that. You know, there's just a lot of truth to breathing, taking a deep breath, taking everything in, and deliberately making the response that you want to make, rather than having a reactionary attitude or towards it. And you know, and I kind of go into, you know, for 7 years of her life, we're kind of in programming mode, a theta brave brain wave state, to where we are essentially being programmed, and the things that we learn in those first 7 years determine who we become later in life, or you know, from then that point on. And we're gradually trying to work out of those traumas. I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I don't really remember a lot of stuff from whenever I was a child, as far as like firsthand experiences and stuff like that. I feel like it's all suppressed subconsciously. And you know, I've got a lot of history in the past in that point of my life, but I feel like at the beginning of our lives, we're learning how to respond to stimulants in our environment, and it's programming us so that once we get past that point, we're just in a reactionary phase of how we're conducting ourselves. And I've finally got to the point where I'm making deliberate responses rather than just governing myself by my subconscious reactions to my stimulants. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Would you call that appropriate action in the absence of orders?
Yeah, I guess so. You know what I mean? It's just more of being mindful of what I'm deciding to do rather than just doing. It's being mindful of what I'm deciding to do. And I've never, I've read a couple books and stuff like that that have kind of alluded to this, but it wasn't until after I'd already started discovering it for myself. And what had happened is that throughout my life, I can look back and I can actually see how this can also be used in a manipulative, dark manner as well. And
Yes.
and people don't realize that. And I feel like there's a lot of people that have the ability of being mindful of this that are subconsciously using it in a dark way rather than in a light way. And I can just reflect on my past as a young man and stuff like that. And I guess
Mhm.
what I'm trying to get to and explain is that I believe that I'm an empath and I can pick up on other people's feelings. And this kind of plays into a deliberate response based upon what my stimulants are in my environment. And I can think of in the past where I have used that inappropriately, this gift that I have been
Yeah.
given. And it was not necessarily on in a deliberate way. It was kind of in a subconscious way. And I've gradually learned how to control it uh, in more of a light manner. And I think that this goes hand in hand. And I think a lot of us have these abilities that we're trying to discover or realize that we have, that we can utilize. And just like helping others come to the realization that they have more control over their lives than they think that they do. Life isn't
Yeah.
happening to you, it's happening around you, and you're deciding how to respond to that.
That comes from experience, Jake. Saying that even comes from experience.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was really profound. I can relate a lot to that too. Before I got into, you know, working with Rick and working on True Reporting with Thomas, and I came from a very, very dark background. I can kind of relate to what Jeff was talking about with, having a violent past and not necessarily being in the best place. And yeah, sometimes experience can be the best teacher. And I think it's in that moment. And I can go back to certain points where I was facing addiction. I was facing not living a good path, walking in darkness. And I think there was points where, and especially two very, very unique and specific points where I decided this isn't something that I want anymore. This is not the path that I want to walk. And I think there is a realization there for everybody where you come to a point where it's not an excuse. You run out of, oh well, I'm going to procrastinate. I'm going to wait, or, oh, I accept the way I am. Well, sometimes you have to confront those demons or that darkness. And that's a place that I had to come out of. And that takes, like you said, admitting and understanding that we're not perfect, but getting into transmuting energy, getting into realizing that there's a healing process, getting into, well, maybe these were things that I had and these are things that I did, but is this ultimately who I am? Is this ultimately what I want to be? So confronting yourself, I think that's huge. When you actually take the time to say, all right, here's what I did, here's what I want, but is this who I want to be? Is this who I truly am? To not respond with violence, to have understanding, to realize, yes, I have, committed sins. Yes, I've been in the dark, but from that experience, growing out of it and finding light, that can be a very amazing thing. So a lot of the things that, you just said, Jeff and Jake, that really resonated with me because I came from a place that, compared to where I was, I would say it's been 180-degree turn. And that responsibility starts with taking the first step within yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, totally there with that. I'm going to throw in there, if you don't mind. I was too in probably my most profoundly dark place that I've ever been at the age of 29 when I was assaulted. But what it led me to was the discovery that I had no ego. How does that work out? Everything that you create within yourself with every decision that you've ever made within your life, you build little walls, little gates raise little barriers the whole way through your existence. And that's a formation of character. And where I was left with a blow to the head was nothing was holding anything back anymore. Nothing. I literally was blown wide open. And within that experience, the darkness that I discovered within myself was way more profound than anything I ever could have imagined. It wasn't possible for me to conceive it because I was a light being. I already knew what I was from a very young age. So how did that happen? And that's a story within itself. However, through some experiences after that situation, I then was of the realization that the light within me was still there. And that's what came forth. The darkness was my darkness. I love my darkness. The power that comes from within is so shockingly powerful. It's like seeds are put under the soil to become something beautiful. The darkness integrated with my light is me. And I found my way through that. So I'm so grateful for this connection of self rather than this disintegration and division of self, that you must look at the darkness as a separate entity when it's actually just you're looking at from a different view. Different viewpoint.
It's a great point, because people are maybe they still hold their own, what do we want to call it, their own identity of dealing with the darkness as bad. They say, oh, that's the bad side of me. That's they still put it in a box. You know what I mean? But you have to really, there is a beauty to the darkness, to our own darkness, that we can go back, we can learn some lessons, and we are always willing. We need to be willing to go back to it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, literally, absolutely, totally agree with you. Literally, as every one of us is growing, that is the creation of ego, is it not? Do this, do that, walk this way, dress this way, go to that school, go for this education, drive that car. And when you have that totally obliterated, I mean, totally wiped out, where you're literally surviving on instinct from that moment. That's a it's a precarious situation as well, because I found out that you actually need ego. You need it, because I was walking out in front of buses, guys, and I didn't care. And hang on, you kind of have to care if you're literally, not metaphorically, walking out in front of a bus, right? The ego kind of tends to want to take care of itself. I found out I needed ego. I needed it to keep myself safe. And that was my number one connection with my ego, was learning, actually, that thing is literally me taking care of this vessel.
Yeah, it's an expression, more or less than just a thing that doesn't.
Exactly.
It's who we are, and people do. They tend to, when they hear information like this or advice that maybe I've, I'll do my personal bit a little bit. When I've told some soldiers about, trying not to be personal with their information, but where you have experiences that people are, it goes into so much with denial as well, I guess. It's picking up from, this is internal. This starts with you, as in the audience. It starts with you on the inside. It isn't what you're going to hear from somebody on the outside coming and telling you how to think that's going to fix your life. It's your own thoughts. You have them. Don't be afraid that you can't have them. You do have them. You're capable of thinking through your own darkness, and there is a beauty to it.
Absolutely, there is. The thing is, it's taking ownership for self, taking responsibility of yourself, and realizing that, okay, it can get a little bit complicated. Are these thoughts yours? You got to realize, okay, there are illnesses where voices are going on, and there's also the quiet voice inside. But now we are finding more and more, the further back we look in our history, there are other spiritual, ethereal things that also have voice that can torment you. And now governments are also doing something similar with devices. It's invasive and pervasive continually. It's finding the quiet voice inside and within your own darkness and your own light, and showing love to everything that you have within you. Finding a division within you is not going to help you.
Absolutely.
We
Well
touched on
said.
because I mean, there's people out there who are totally using this vulnerability, our emotional or mental vulnerability against us, are they not? They know
Not
that
such, not so much our vulnerabilities. These are our strengths. We're just not looking at them as our strengths, but simply because society is dictating something else. Why? Our power is us, what we are. We are true God beings, selves of source. I'm absolutely of the belief of that. Now, belief is a word I do not bandy around too easily. Yet, from my humbling experience, and it has been humbling, I have seen a lot more outside of this. I've had 3 near-death experiences, and I'm not afraid. No way, not afraid. Yet I found the scariest thing for me was taking responsibility for my own darkness, because it is fierce. And learning how to harness the power of that and use it with light continually is the most empowering thing I've ever done, I think. And it has taken years. It has not been an easy journey, yet it is not impossible. And I can and do use that light continually to show others, like, if I can do it, you can do it.
yes, yes,
I
precisely.
I wholeheartedly believe that, we aren't special in the fact that we're the only ones. We're not the only ones. There's just a lot of people that haven't realized the capabilities that they have, and that's why I'm so um, uh, this interaction with y'all is so important to me, so that other people can stumble across it and hear it. Because there was a point in time not long ago where I wasn't where I am now, realizing that there's resources out there and people that have already had these experiences and come to this realization that, you know there's others like us, or that we can get reinforcement, encouragement to that. Hey, I know that this has changed your life in a lot of ways, but it's a good direction to head. And yeah, it's each individual person's path to take, but it is an awesome one that other people are going down the same similar path, if that makes sense.
Exactly. I think
Absolutely.
the kind of what we have on screen here. I think that plays into the voluntary versus involuntary actions when it comes to these, how we react to these outside forces that cause us these stresses. Are we going to have the self-discipline, or have we already been there to do the work to recognize, hey, I have violent tendencies, for example, and if I want to punch this dude in the face, versus trying to have words and get him to understand where I'm at, and holding patience and being able to have that ability to know I can do this, versus I'm gonna blow up. We've all had that, where we want to go through a fit of rage. It's the easy way out. It's always
Yep.
easy to get angry.
That
um,
is very true.
I remember being a young buck. I would see people who I would maybe expect to be, let's just say, warriors, or to have to
Mhm.
only use strength to achieve their goals. And I would say, you're so strong. You could solve your problem in any second by using your strength or your brute force. Why don't you just do that and make things easy on yourself? And they would always, oh, you're so young, you're green. You have to have patience, Rick. You have to not always just use strength. You have to be wise. Use wisdom. Choose the path of wisdom. And I have learned that over my course of life. And I think a lot of us have, but it is true, where if you're not disciplined inside, and you haven't done some of this work, and you're not prepared, again, you're gonna get stuck. It happens to all of us, where we're caught off guard, where we,
We're,
we
may,
haven't prepared.
may I say something regarding that?
Please.
The base, what I would suggest, and this is how I apply it to myself and many others, is to know thyself. Know thyself is not generic as like, oh, know thyself. I like this. I like that. No, know thyself. So you know your tendencies. So let's say if you're hungry, if you're a hangry type of person, and you know you're gonna go into a stressful situation, fucking eat.
Prepare.
Prepare. That's the
Like,
battle. Okay.
wait, you mean someone's not going to come give me snacks because I'm hungry?
So
Uh,
like if you're like, cause this is a challenge for me in the beginning when I was started fasting, intermittent fasting. So once I already feel like I'm depleted and I'm gonna go to a stressful situation, right? Sometimes it's, you got hit blindsided, and that's what I call God is stretching you out. And that's fine, but that's not all the time. And it's just like, okay, replenish, like most of my fasting regimen is intermittent. So okay, I could drink matcha. I could drink, let's say, water and minerals. So now I know at least I have raw material. So what's lacking with most people is they don't understand that you could have different raw material in the body that will actually give you the buffer not to be overreacting or reacting on the button, you know? Especially when you know some of these mother effers love to press the button, waiting for you to have reaction. You know those people. They just
Right,
like to
right.
poke you,
Trying to get a reaction out of
trying to
you.
get a reaction. And you know, but when you're depleted, you're like, oh, you know? But when you're not depleted, you just take a deep breath. Oh, I'm cool. You see? So just know thyself. Like when you're depleted, this is why I created my spiritual cleansing. Like, hey, you know, I have a lot of stuff going on in my energy field. Ground first. You know what I'm saying? Cleanse. You know, do some breath work, whatever, clear out. And you know, God bless me, the universe, whoever God is to you, with the ability to shift your consciousness and your vibration. So I put people in a blissful state, if they allow it. And that's how I get a lot of drug addicts to get in a like spiritual high. There's like, I feel high. Yeah, you are high on your own substance. You are making your substance with just spiritual practice. You don't necessarily need to take outside substance. And there are different rate of raw materials, but with just breath work, raw, you know, just like water, salt, gratitude, you can, if you allow it, to shift your what we call emotion is energy in motion. Yeah.
Like a shift in consciousness. That's
Yeah, you
yeah.
literally shift it. And then when you do that, you
It's
reduce
100%.
pain. So this is how I explain to people, like, you know, like go back to denial in the beginning of our conversation. Because I offer, oh, by the way, I offer complimentary healing and detox for all veterans. Okay. So I have even simple tools or teaching. So that's my passion, because where I was working with insane criminals, I seen how bad veterans came in, you know?
That
So I was like, wow, you know, I came as an immigrant. I have this freedom because it's veterans and they're all getting fucked over. It's like sad, you know? So that's why I have this like, well, what can I do? I don't have a lot of money yet. I don't have a lot, but I have all these tools and teachings to shift their pain. You can't really have truly shifting your physical pain if you don't shift the emotions, because the emotion that dictate the physical. So as soon as I shift the way they feel, the pain, it almost 100% just gone. It doesn't matter what pain it is. So then they have this knowledge and wisdom. I assist them to experience this so they could do it on their own. You know, but I experienced it with myself.
Wow.
When,
I love that.
Totally resonate that. I get people to do the same thing, show them the power within themselves, not the power outside of themselves. I'm not going to want you to lift you. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, it goes into the whole experience side of this is when, you know, to use a layman's term, healed versus unhealed. But when you're able to cultivate your own inner support group by being yourself, by being disciplined, you don't have to rely on other people necessarily to get that feeling of what would we even call it, emotional satisfaction, or you know, why to seek somebody like maybe even a partner, to when we feel insecure, to constantly seek that person's support, although we don't know inside that we're being insecure about a need. If there's an example out there, I could probably give one, but you understand how I mean, how we can maybe seek support but not realize it. And
that's like codependency and healing.
A codependency that's exactly the word I was trying to find.
Yeah. Well, you know, an awful lot of what we're talking about comes down to self-actualization, self-realization. And, you know, it's just, if you are constantly looking outside of yourself, how can you look in or learn to look in? And an awful lot of life experiences that I have noted with other people is it takes some sort of event, mechanism, trigger for an allowing of them to look at themselves from a different viewpoint, a different aspect, and maybe go a little bit inside, a little bit deeper, maybe go someplace they've never gone before, simply because their worldview has changed, and it can be through a traumatic event.
We protect ourselves subconsciously right? We develop subconscious, walls, barriers to protect ourselves. And
Yes.
when does one take the time to dismantle those barriers? When do they ever, like you said, Jake, when does one reassess those things? And when do we go back? Well, that's why we go back to our shadow work. We go back to the darkness. We can continue to benefit from it.
From a point of safety and a point of
Yes.
clarity, as
Yes.
take yourself away from everything and all distractions and everyone about you. And if it means going and sitting in a park on a bench, just asking yourself a few simple questions. Well, one simple question is, am I happy? If not, why not? And from there, wow, the questions can just keep coming until you begin to dig deep enough.
Or a simple question is, what is happiness to me?
Perfect.
Because sometimes when you ask, are you happy or not, they don't even know what is happiness to them, because they are being projected what is happiness to them. They don't know authentically what is happiness to them.
Yeah.
You know,
That
so
takes
many
time and
people
digging.
think so many people think that the world is creating their happiness, but it's not. You don't need this outside
Yep.
force. It is absolutely not creating your happiness.
Yeah, I would agree.
You are creating your happiness. You are. I mean,
Yes.
you are creating your own reality every second of every day. Every second after second after second, you're creating your own reality. How you feel right now is a decision that you are making. And you might not realize that you are. It could be a subconscious decision that's being made, but you are making that decision. And that's one thing that I talk to my kids about all the time. I've got a 9-month-old right now. I've got a 5-year-old, and I've got a 12-year-old. And every day, guys, listen, it it's not the world around you. Some things we're going to have to do that we don't necessarily enjoy as much as something else, but that doesn't mean we have to let it affect our overall happiness or emotions or the way that we feel about the day or other people or the environment that we're in. Now, that doesn't mean subject yourself to something that's unhealthy over and over and over, but it means that you can put yourself in a state of mind to where you can endure these things that might be difficult or harder or not as enjoyable. And that's what even so many adults don't understand. I think the vast majority of human beings don't understand. I don't know if it's the vast majority, but at least those that I've experienced in my day-to-day life, my close family, friends. I mean, like I said earlier, I have friends that I've known since I was in kindergarten. I've lived in the same town. I mean, off and on, I've traveled the world, but I've lived in the same town for 35 years. And I know multiple generations of families. You know what I mean? And all these people that I know are still allowing the outside world to control how they feel, and that is unnecessary. It is
Yeah.
completely
That's
unnecessary.
simply because they're giving it permission. You got to give somebody permission to affect you. You must give them permission. If there's a drama happening right in front of you, you must give it permission to affect you, trigger you. Or you can just actually take an observing point of view and go, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's to me or outside of me. Because you'll find the majority of times when you ask the question to people, what's happening to you? If they look, there's not a lot happening to you. There's a lot happening around you. What's affecting you? What are you allowing in?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
This is wonderful.
I would agree with that. Yeah, especially when you're talking about, being truly happy versus allowing the world to dictate your happiness, because then that happiness becomes an illusion versus reality.
Well, and that's the
Yeah.
roller coaster. That's the roller coaster that everybody's experiencing. Everybody's experiencing that roller coaster up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. If you're constantly allowing those outside stimulants to control the way you feel, you're going to be up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You're going to be exhausted, absolutely exhausted.
Right.
You're dealing with a consciousness that, sorry,
No, go
No,
ahead.
good.
Consciousness.
I'm done.
you're dealing with a consciousness that's actually been working for a very, 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 very long time, manipulating humanity, and knows what all your triggers are, simply because we've seen that this week. People getting triggered over certain situations that are happening. And wow, where's the self-healing and where's the spirituality there? And where's the togetherness? Where's the spirituality of kindness and love and compassion? Where's that gone? These people are constantly using these things that we innately know will affect us as pure spirits. I am of the mind we're all, every one of us that came here are pure spirits of God, creator, source. Yet, It gets corrupted along the way by outside influences and interference from childhood the whole way through adulthood. And it takes either traumatic situations or life triggers to put many of us into a situation of self-reflection to be able to discern ourselves. What am I doing here? What is this about? And try to figure it out from there.
So on that, would it be easier, do you guys think, with someone to observe, like we were talking about, to kind of step outside of themselves and not in every instance of drama have to inject themselves into it, but to observe it? Is that easier to do once you've done some healing, once you've been able to kind of rectify some trauma, or is it something that they can do in between?
It's
You
it's
do
all
that?
dynamic.
Yeah.
It's all dynamic. I mean, even in my level, I still get upset. I'm not perfect. That's why I created this teachings and this practice. But the whole idea is not even to be perfect and like, oh, I'm godlike, so I don't get triggered anymore. That's not the key. The
No, I
key
wouldn't
is
say
to,
that. My gosh, no,
Not at
that's
all.
like,
yeah, the key is
that's
to
related to
allow, okay,
allowing or
you
not.
know, you like, it's the way you respond. So I got triggered. Let's say if I saw like a baby get vaccine injured because the parents are, I'm trying not to use the bad words, the parents are not deciding not to do their own
Aware.
research, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's triggering me like a mother, right? Then I just pause. It's like, okay, is this conducive? No. So now I use the intensity of the emotion, the trigger, like, right? And I change the content of the emotion because the intention of the emotion, that's the way I look at it, right?
Yes.
So instead of saying, F you blah blah blah, da da da, right? I use the intensity of the emotion. I don't lose the intensity because I'm like a Bruce Lee student. You use emotional content for your delivery of your attack. So I change the emotional content to awareness. Okay, well, utilize this as awareness. So I use that energy with that intention and intensity. Intensity matters to make people aware and share. Look, so instead of me complaining and yelling to people that don't even care about the truth, right? They're doing this. And then I just use that to educate and raise awareness. So at least I hold myself responsible in that moment to increase awareness because obviously some people are still not aware. That's just a simple thing. And so I have some basic stuff that I applied and I show to others, just that basic alignment, just to know which part of you is that's conducive to be fed or to be focused on, so you have the best outcome to respond. The way you respond to a situation dictate the outcome.
Like it's like throwing the first punch in a fight, right? Sometimes it's like, are we going to be the ones who are going to step in and be manipulated by someone else's words and actions? And, again, take the higher road, and in a way, not so much take a higher road to be morally different, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, you have to be able to do what you just did, to be faced with something that's pissing you off, and to actually think, okay, I've got to hold some space. I've got to actually make the better decision. I can't just go with my emotions. I have to make a better decision that's going to actually benefit you.
Absolutely.
You can
That's the takeaway there.
Yeah,
but you
totally
can use
get
that intensity of that emotion. That's what I'm saying. Don't feel bad when you feel quote unquote negative emotion. Negative emotion serves a purpose. So it's good that you feel it, but just don't sit and respond with that. You could change the content of the emotion, your heart, the content of the signature of the energy in your heart. You could just switch it. And it takes practice, but it's a muscle memory because all this emotion energy is your muscle memory. So once you're able to switch it to, well, instead of me complaining and yelling at people, let's just do something about it. Put a post and share it to people. Hey, this is what's happening if you inject your baby with bioweapon. Whether they're gonna scream at you, but at least I feel good about myself. Like, so I can't just say, oh, you're unaware, you're this. I'm doing my part at least to make people aware. You kind of get what I'm trying to say, like, brothers?
Oh yes, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's a matter of application, applied spirituality. Like everything that I'm trying to convey is just apply it. So don't waste your emotional energy. The
Right.
intensity. If you're pissed off, great, good. You could transmute it, and we could use the intensity.
Yes.
Don't try to
Yes.
diffuse it.
Yes. Don't, so much in the world today. I can't remember how long ago it was. I think I even talked to you about this, Rick, but it was everybody's telling you, oh, don't get triggered, don't get mad, don't get this. Feel that, feel the emotion. We're emotional. Feel it and change it to work for you.
Don't let
So
it
many
own you.
so many things in our lives touch us in different ways. Happiness, sadness, anger, anxiety, and all these things. It's the universe, God, it's whatever you want to call it. It's them telling us what to feel in that moment and how to change it to work for us. If that, I mean, I don't know how to explain that any better. It's not about not feeling. It's being in this state of mind is not about not feeling. It's
Thank
about
you. You're
just,
answering at the same time, literally, what's going through my mind by not reacting, or I'm observing drama around me. The first thing I'll ask myself initially is like, what can I do about this?
yes.
I mean that there's an awful lot of stimulus out there in the world, which is there literally just to trigger. I do not allow myself to get triggered. And yeah, it comes down to life experience and having life beat the absolute shit out of you. Yeah.
Leonidas just walked in the room. I'll be right back. I'm gonna let.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
So I would say that like not reacting is not putting anybody would not put anybody into a God state of like, oh, I'm not going to be triggered by this or allow myself. That's not a God state. That's literally a state of discernment. It's deciding as to whether or not, if I have time to react or not. Am I going to be triggered by this, or am I going to observe what's happening? Am I going to learn from it? Is there anything I could do about it? And these questions can pop in my head in an instant. It's about keeping my head calm, relaxed, and can I be of service?
Not seeking
Great
out
point.
where can I put myself to
Exactly.
like we just
Situations
talked,
have taught me that, Rick, you know. So
like we just talked about.
how
Now,
good
it's
if I'm
not
reacting.
yeah, it's not about, hey, I'm perfect, therefore I'm not going to be triggered. That's not a state.
Far from perfect, dude.
It's far from perfect, right? Because then that's an imbalance of the ego. We don't want
Absolutely.
an ego that projects an illusion that we're safe
No.
from all of this, because we're not. You have to have, we hear about this all the time, balance. Having a balance is not, it's not difficult when you understand that too much, and like you said, it comes from experience. And
It comes from self-love. It comes
Yes.
from literally asking
Right.
yourself right at the very beginning of your day, your life, before I do anything, what am I worth? What is my worth? Ask yourself, what is my worth? I ask myself, what is my worth? And I work from there.
yeah, start your day in the mirror.
Got it.
Self-love.
Start your day in the mirror, gentlemen. Seriously, if you don't, try and start your day in front of the mirror. Look at yourself in the eye.
Can I say something real quick? So for all you brothers or sisters that watch this, for their families or what, so if you're helping someone, or if you are brothers watching this, I'm just going to remind what Cormac was saying there. You might probably feel a little bit like, wow, they're doing this, they're able to do that and this, and there's a disconnection. I can't achieve that because I feel fucked up right now, right? Do not feel discouraged. Okay.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's a practice. It's a freaking practice.
Don't let it be. Don't let it become you.
Yes. So, but it takes discipline. Don't whine and complain if things doesn't change, if you're not trying to change. That's all. So we gotta, like, don't feel discouraged just because there's a disconnection. Well, these guys achieved this, I'm way over down there. Don't feel that way, because this is why the intention of our love and our care for all of us, for humanity, is to reach out to people, so to show you guys or girls or whoever, whatever, that things are achievable one step at a time. The way you respond to yourself, the way you respond to your experience, the way you process. So, but it takes practice. You got to start doing something about it. That's all. I don't want them to feel like there's like a gap,
Right.
Yeah.
And in baby steps. It's not like you have to try and eliminate all of your internal trauma right away to be better. No, it's going to be done in chunk it up into little steps. That's how we all got to this point, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes holding on to a little bit of trauma, if you can hold on to a sliver of it, once it's healed, it for me, it's a good memory. It's like I can still derive power from that. I can still derive power from that. These are these cuts that are everywhere that heal. They're good for me. They are good. It's okay. It's healing. And at the same time, it's empowering. And it's great to be able to look and witness the healing.
Yeah.
Look at yourself. Look at your cuts. Look at your bandages. You don't have to think that you have to be this pristine thing. Bullshit. Absolutely not.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. Get rid of that stigma, guys. Yeah. It's not about being perfect. And don't be afraid to start because you're afraid of not being able to maintain that level of pristine spiritual health or mental health. Don't be afraid because you're afraid of failure. That's so many people also get to that point where I can't, they might say, and they shoot themselves a foot by saying, I can't start this health path with my mind because I'm not sure where it's going to end up because I'm so hurt. I have so much pain. I'm not sure I want to see where it ends up. I've got so much built up inside of me that what if I don't like what I see on the inside? And you kind of look at these people and you're like, well, that's who you are. Don't that's you gotta we're gonna work through it. Don't be afraid of what you might think your worst fear is. Believe me, we're all beautiful people on the inside. And there's been a lot of there's just terrible people out there who have done terrible things to good people. And I think there's so many people right now who are feeling just like what you guys said. Don't base it off of everyone else that you're viewing. It's not going to be a shared experience for everybody. And don't feel lacking because you didn't have as hard of a time as someone else did. That's not the point. The point is what strength can you draw from your own experiences and finding the beauty in that because they're our own experiences. That's it. Pure and simple.
Yes.
Yes.
Just I gotta leave in like about 10 minutes. So
Yes. I think we're at a great stopping point. This was a fantastic discussion, guys. Really.
Absolutely.
I feel really
Absolutely.
happy. Is there anything else, any stories or just pieces of advice that any of you guys want to give kind of as a sign off? If you do, you can go ahead and let me know. And
Be kind to yourself. Start with a little bit self-love. Self-love. Love yourself. Love the fact that you're here, that you have this privilege of a life. And it is a privilege to be here.
Absolutely.
Life
for me, it's the self-love. Try not to get generic, and the self-love is discipline that we were just sharing. Is to show that you actually care about what's the outcome from a situation, whether it is a health thing, whether it is relationship, whether it is a situation that you're about to deal with. So care about the outcome. That's how you show that you care and you love about yourself. So you care about the outcome. So the outcome's not going to be conducive or positive. So change your angle, right? But it takes discipline. So self-love, don't try to fall into this generic outside self-love, like all this about, oh, get a massage or that's superficial. Try to get into self-love of like self-discipline. What can I do better at little at a time? The way you're responding to certain things. Self-discipline and self-love. That's all.
Absolutely. The ability to overcome, the ability to realize that out of bad situations, you can still make greatness, that you can survive these things and find that balance. And sometimes what makes us great is like you guys have said, it's the things that break us down and coming out of that darkness and finding the light on the other side.
Yes, 100%. Life, in my opinion, from my experience, don't get overwhelmed when you're trying to step off on this path and put these things into action. Don't get overwhelmed by the size of life. Like we were talking earlier, this isn't something that happens overnight. If you want to change the way that your body looks, and you're overweight, or you became overweight because you have ate unhealthy food for a long period of time, and it takes a while to get to that point. When you start off as a baby, you're not overweight, out of shape. It takes a long time to get to that point of being overweight, out of shape. And if you want to go back in the other direction, it takes a lot of hard work, discipline, and desire to stay on that track to achieve what you want. Same with this. Don't get overwhelmed by how long it takes, because time's going to pass anyway. And as long as you are making the right steps right now, because life is a series of right nows, literally right now. What can I do to change the way that I feel? What can I do in this moment to be happier? And another thing too is forgive yourself, because you're going to have struggles. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to live up to the expectations that you perceive for yourself, or on this path of changing the way that you respond to the world and how to make yourself happier. So forgiveness, and just realize that in order to do this, it's just, okay, what can I do right now? 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 And that's the truth of it, is it's a series of right nows. Well, make that decision deliberate for what your goals are right now.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't be afraid to get started on this, and start small, and realize that, yeah, you got to forgive yourself. Even if I've had some of these conversations where guys are like, well, I feel bad that I haven't started doing this a long time ago, or I wish I would have done this a long time ago. Well, that's okay. You didn't do it then. Now you can do it now. You don't have to live through that anymore. You can start now, start small, and it starts on the inside. And again, we don't know what's coming around the corner. We're at the end of, 2021, a year that I never thought would ever come. But again, we're here, and what's going to come, we don't know. It could be good, it could be bad, but we got to be prepared for that. It's not going to be the time to do this mental preparedness when the bad stuff is hitting the fan, guys. It's not going to work out. We got to try and do it now. So I really hope that this was helpful for everybody. If you guys have any questions, concerns, please let us know in the comments below. I'm going to put some source material up for you guys to check out, and hopefully we'll get everyone back together in the future soon. So with that being said, I thank every one of you, Jake, Cormac, Jeff, and Johnny. Thank you guys so much for your time and for all of the shared experience. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Take care out there. In a world that fears a supply chain crisis, it's good to have a friend for small businesses and shippers. Whether it's 1 to 10 pallets or a full climate-controlled van load, AAA Brokerage is eager and willing to assist you in your logistical needs. Contact us today for a rate quote to get started.